every single ancient culture had their own separate calendar. Egypt's year began and ended with the inundation of the Nile in the summer. Babylonian years ended and began in the spring in the months of Adar. Nisan during their bizarre 12-day Ukutu festival in honor of Marduk. The Athenian calendar. Greek, but there were a lot of different Greek calendars began and ended in the late summer. The classical Hindu calendar begins in the spring. And beginning in 45 BCE, the Julian calendar began in January. A gross departure from how things had been handled previously. Before 45 BCE, the Roman calendar was historically a mess. With months from March to December. 304-day year separated by a long random winter made longer or shorter at the whim of legislators, who might like to extend or prematurely cut off the administration of a certain ruler. I say this to illustrate that the specific dating of anything to the Julian, and by obvious extension, the modern Gregorian calendar, before 45 BCE is purely wishful thinking. Equating dates between one culture and another until just before the time of Messiah is nigh impossible, except in the cases of recorded astrological phenomena. Hence, in historical volumes of this era, we see things narrowed down to a few years or, if we are fortunate, a couple of months within a given year. Another problem, until the deification of Julius Caesar in 42 BCE, almost no one cared about when anyone was born. The notable exception being Egypt. People cared about knowing when great deeds happened, and when great men died. They did not give a fig for anyone's birthday, unless it was associated with some great astronomical or historical event. Otherwise, it did not warrant a mention. With the advent of the imperial cult, the birthdays of the Caesars became public celebrations. But this was very new in the time of the Messiah. It was so new, in fact, that scholars are fairly certain that Herod Antipas was not celebrating his birthday in Matthew chapter 14, but instead his regnal anniversary. After all, the day he came to the throne was more important than being born. There is no honor in being born, but becoming king. Oh yeah. Besides Horus and Osiris, not a single one of the birth dates claimed in hymns like the one above, are actually recorded. And for the overwhelming majority, are not even commemorated. Horus and Osiris. Now this meme claims they were born on the same day. But, in fact, they were born on the first and third epagomenal days of the Egyptian calendar. Not considered part of the year, but extra days outside of time. In the version of mythology where they were brothers, their mother had been cursed with an inability to have children on any day of the year, but, through some fancy finagling, managed to get 5 extra days inserted at the time of the inundation of the Nile, during the summer. So not only were they not born on the same day, they were both born in the summer. As for the 3000 BC date, that is pure fiction. Egyptian records claim that the pharaohs themselves went back much farther than that. As for the charge that either one of them were born of a virgin, that strikes out as well. In the most well-known of Horus-Osiris mythology, the myths has no birthdays mentioned at all. Horus' parents were married, which generally discourages virginity, and Isis was never portrayed as a virgin. Eddis of Phrygia. No birthday found anywhere. He castrated himself and wore a funny hat, and his priests castrated themselves as well. I think the only reason he was chosen for this list is because his mother was impregnated by an almond, which I suppose could be equated with a virgin birth. He was also one of the dying gods, whose departure from the world marked the death of vegetation over the winter months. Krishna. This one is popularly on such lists, because somehow Krishna sounds enough like Christ, that they want him included. Krishna's birthday is actually celebrated on Janamashtami, in the Hindu month of Shravana, or August-September on our calendar. So this one is just flat-out manufactured, when there is perfectly good information already out there, as was the case with Horus and Osiris. Like Horus, Krishna's parents were also married. No virgins here. The date of 1400 BCE is problematic, as I am unaware of any mentions of this god, before the first millennium BCE. Zoroaster. Now this guy, Zarathustra, was actually a real historical figure, a Persian prophet. No one knows when this guy was actually born. Sometime between the mid-2nd and mid-1st millennium BCE. His parents were, again, married, sexually active, and both human. He was never worshipped. Ahura Mazda was the deity he preached, but founded the religion of Zoroastrianism. His birthday is now commemorated on the 6th day after the Persian New Year, and falls on March 26th or 28th each year on a holiday known as Hordad Sal. He is venerated as a prophet. Mithra of Persia, as opposed to Roman Mithras, has no birthday, and he sprang to life fully adult from a rock, although I have no reason to doubt the rock's virginity. Heracles. Original name of Hercules. This dude's mom was definitely not a virgin. She unknowingly had relations with Zeus, who was disguised as her husband. The Greeks celebrated the date of his death as Heraclea, in late July early August, but not his birth. Remember that, until Caesar, birth dates were largely irrelevant, and would only be mentioned with respect to signs in the sky or other great events, but not referenced with dates. The 800 BCE date on this one is bizarre. Herodotus claimed that Heracles lived 900 years before his own era, so roughly 1300 BCE. Dionysus was worshipped beginning in the 2nd millennium BCE by the Mycenaeans and better known by his later Roman name of Bacchus. Herodotus dates his mortal mother Semele's life at around 2000 BCE. She had an affair with Zeus, knowing he was Zeus. So not a virgin either. But this is only one of the legends. In others, the mother of Dionysus was Persephone, queen of the underworld. Like the Egyptians, the Greeks sometimes had regional origin stories. The weird thing about the date on this meme is that it is 186 BCE. The year that the Roman Senate prohibited the festival of Bacchanalia. So they used a legitimate date tied to Dionysus, but utterly misrepresented it. Tammuz. 400 BCE. Really? Ezekiel chapter 8 has Tammuz being worshipped in the temple, which was destroyed in 586 BCE. How on earth could he be born 200 years later? And how could a Babylonian god who had a summer month named after him have his birthday celebrated on a calendar date that did not exist yet, by a still backward nation? Rome was not even founded until 753 BCE, and at this point, Babylon and Rome were, for all intents and purposes, as far away as two countries could get, while still being considered part of the known world. Adonis is claimed as being born in 200 BCE. Here is an Aribulus from the 5th century BCE with Adonis pictured on it, so again, I have no idea where this date comes from or why there would be a claim that the Greeks would be celebrating one of their gods' birthdays according to the Roman calendar. There are many Adonis origin stories, most notably that which involved the incestuous union between his mother and grandfather, but none of them list a birth date. The only festival in his honor was Adonia, celebrated by women in the spring or summer, which is greatly disputed, commemorating his death. Again, they focused on how great men demigods died. Hermes is claimed as being born in 400 BCE. How can we take seriously the claim that an ancient Greek god was only 400 years older than the Messiah? In the 8th century BCE, Homer included Hermes in the Iliad. No birth date is ever associated with him. But the Hermia festival was celebrated in his honor during the month of Hermeos. In Polis, a city-state in ancient Greece that had that month. Not all did. The timing of which varies according to the ancient regional calendars, as I already mentioned. Each region had its own separate calendar until the creation of the Thessalian calendar during the Roman era. Prometheus was born at the beginning of mankind. In Greek legend he was the Titan who actually made mankind out of clay. That this birth supposedly happened on December 25 is undocumented and unsubstantiated historically. His parents were married and he was only one of their 4 children, so, again, not a virgin birth either, even though some memes make that claim. Not only wasn't his mom a virgin, but she was also seeing Helios on the side. Finally, I don't know of a single scholar who thinks Yahshua was born in June, and especially not sure why the 16th. Now, in 2008 some astronomers made that claim, but it is hardly worthy of claims to scholarly consensus. And the last line equates BCE with CE. I just cannot even believe that someone would equate before Common Era with Common Era. It is like equating yesterday and tomorrow.